Sundays with the Bushes.
Welcome.
Praise the Lord. We're back. And we're in effect. All right. Are we clear? Can you see us? Can you hear us? Are you with us?
It is another Sunday evening with the Bushes. I am quite tired and quite sick. So bear with me.
Yes.
As I'm sick and quite tired.
Yeah, we were, it was an illness this past week in the Bush household. And we're still feeling the effects of it. So,
hello, Kalika, how are you?
We got Kalika. Hey, Miss Kalika P. Johnson.
And we are on last minute because we didn't really do any advertisement this week because we were sick.
Yeah, we didn't
and
know.
Also had a million places to be while we were sick.
We didn't know whether or not we were going to even be on today. But, you know, you got to do what the Lord calls you to do. You understand? Yeah. There will be hindrances, but we're here today. So we're just going to wait a couple more seconds because we don't want to...
Yes. We don't want to prolong the time, and we know that we have some people who join us after we go live. Last week, our topic was unrealistic expectations, which was a very great concept, great topic. We had a lot of feedback, and we got almost 500 views, and I got a couple emails, so that let me know that it was a good little session that we had last week.
It was a great return to the series.
And I don't know who else is on with us, but I know Kalika's on, so I'm going to ask Kalika this because I'm never live with anybody. I've never went on Facebook and, joined anyone live. Can you join live and people not know you're on? I just wanted to know that, and if you know that,
Can you join live like undercover?
Yeah, because I just don't know. Sometimes people are on live with us and then I can't see who it is, so... Yeah. Just figured I'd ask.
I mean, you know what? I don't think the actual medium of Facebook Live is 100%. I don't want to say accurate, but I think because I know that there are some times where if you like when we're live, we see how many people are viewing, but then I'll look on the computer and the number will be different, slightly higher or slightly lower.
So just the recap of our show last week, unrealistic expectations. We were just talking about how when you are dating, when you are married, a lot of times we come up with these expectations and we put these things on people. And sometimes they're unrealistic, so people aren't able to live up to them, or you've put these expectations on, the people that you're dating or the people you're married to, and they don't even know that you've put those expectations on them. And we talked about, what else did we talk about? We talked about the different types of unrealistic expectations that people put on their significant other. We talked about expecting it to be easy. Expecting, some people think that when you are in a relationship with your soulmate or with the person that you just love to be with, that it's always going to be easy, and any type of conflict is a example of your relationship not being what it's supposed to be. We talked about people expecting others to read their minds. A lot of people, give off vibes, and not everybody is in the frame of mind or are as observant enough to see your actions and see your ways or whatever and know what you're thinking. Like, we can't expect people to read our minds. We can't expect them to know what we want and what we need from time to time, because every time we learn somebody, we change, and we're in a constant state of change. So for you to, or for someone in general to
expect their significant other to read their minds is just redunculous.
Yes. So like I said before, that view, the views on that video from last week were almost at 500 viewers of last week. And like I said, I got a couple emails. Somebody even asked me who did my makeup last week. This is not WeTV. Oh. I did my makeup last week.
She did that makeup. I watched it.
This is not no real show. No, I did it.
This is the real show. We just don't have the budget. You feel me?
I don't have any sponsors.
When the budget comes in, you feel me? We gonna be employing people.
It's an idea of a real show, but I'm basically saying it just ain't no staff here.
No, but let me first of all.
Okay, so
we need budget to build first.
If you would like me to do your makeup, I'll be more than glad to give you a budget.
Mm-hmm. We'll be.
So anyway, hey Treese, thanks for joining us. I don't know, we've lost a couple people on the way, but like I said, last week we had almost 500 views and got a couple emails, so we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna do a flip of last week. Last week, like I said, was unrealistic expectations, but this week we're gonna do realistic expectations.
Because people were talking after the show, sending us messages and things like that. People are wondering, okay, they're like, okay, Ty and Shay, okay, we know what realistic. You leave the show every week. Where do you go? They were asking us like, okay, now we know what expectations are unrealistic, but if I'm getting married, if I'm moving into a marriage, what should I expect? It's not necessarily as simple to say as, all of your unrealistic expectations, just think the opposite of that. It's not that easy. It's not that easily equatable. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do this week is kind of talk about what to expect when you're getting into a marriage situation. So we want to avoid people coming into marriage with the wrong expectations or with unrealistic expectations.
Right.
We're going to map out some expectations that you should have so that you can have a healthy relationship. And we kind of touched on this last week. The first one that I want to talk about is something that I tell people all the time. Everywhere that I go, every time we get into a relationship conversation, this is one of the things that I tell people, and it's that relationships are hard. So you're going to have to expect your relationship to take hard work. Mm-hmm. It's going to take hard work for you to do it. So expect your relationship to require hard work.
Relationships are not for lazy people.
It's not for lazy people. Anything that is easy is not a challenge. That's number one. And anything that you don't have to put work into, you will not benefit from. And that's the honest to God's truth. People don't understand that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So if you push, there's an opposite reaction pushing against you at the same time. That's how we have balance. That's how we have order in the world. I'm not a physicist, you know what I mean? But I do know a little bit about physics, and if it were not for these laws of physics, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, our world and our, earth and atmosphere would be in complete chaos. So the thing that we need to understand about a relationship is that it requires hard work because you need to put into the relationship to benefit from the relationship.
Right.
It's like insurance. You pay into your life insurance so that when you pass away, you can get something out of your insurance. If you never pay into it, when you're dead, you're just dead. And everybody else just has to deal with it and be broke as a result of your untimely demise. So the first thing is, again, that relationships require work. And for those people who come into relationships thinking that it's supposed to be easy breezy, lemon squeezy, they're the people who.
I've never heard that one.
You never heard that?
No.
Easy breezy, lemon squeezy. It's easy like lemonade. Mm-hmm. But for those people who think that relationships should be simple and easy and relaxed, are people who ultimately become dissatisfied with the relationship because they're not receiving the benefits of the relationship. You know? So if you understand that your relationship requires hard work, you also have to understand that you need to expect to be uncomfortable in your relationship. At times. You have to expect to be uncomfortable in your relationship sometimes. And I don't mean uncomfortable in the sense that you're afraid of your significant other, or that you have to deal with things that are just unrealistic to deal with, unhealthy situations. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about uncomfortable to the point where it pushes you to do something in a different way. Because comfortability is the biggest threat to success.
Absolutely.
When you get too comfortable, you stop trying. When you get too comfortable, you get lazy. When you get too comfortable in a relationship, you stop taking risks. You stop trying to move forward. You stop trying to assess the small inconsistencies in your relationship to, take it to the next level.
I mean, it's the same in everyday life. People are comfortable where they are, and so they have a fear of change, and therefore they're never able to, accomplish any of their goals.
Absolutely. And you got to understand that putting work into your relationship, becoming, not being satisfied with the relationship where it is, it's going to take you being uncomfortable. Anybody who has, I give it to you like this. If I believe that my destiny is that I need to live in a 15,000 square foot house, and I'm presently living in a 200 square foot apartment in efficiency, then I have to be so uncomfortable in that environment that I'm going to do whatever it takes, whatever it's necessary for me to get from where I am to where I want to be. If I'm comfortable in a 200 square foot apartment, then I'll never get to that goal. I'll never get to that place where I think I'm destined to be. So we have to expect to be uncomfortable in our relationships. When I'm not talking to her and she's not talking to me, we can't get comfortable with that. That should make us uncomfortable enough to say, look, we can't go around not talking to each other. We have to communicate. If there is a disagreement that we have and we just don't want to come to an agreement, we can't be comfortable. Like, some people think that, arguments are healthy. I don't think that arguments are healthy. I think conversations are healthy. I think honesty is healthy. But when you attach that to anger and emotions and all of that stuff, those things are not healthy for you to do. So you should be uncomfortable with the fact that you're always screaming and she's always screaming. You guys need to be uncomfortable to the point where you're like, look, what do we have to do to get to a place where we can really communicate? So, you got.
I'm following along.
You followed along. Excuse me for
I told you guys that I was sick and under the weather, so I'm struggling here.
Yeah, I'm like about to cough my eyes out. But so you have to expect, just like you have to expect to be uncomfortable. One of the things that's going to make you uncomfortable in your relationship is disagreements. You have to expect to have disagreements, because ultimately you are two different people trying to partner together to experience life.
So that would be a realistic expectation, to expect conflict. It doesn't mean that arguing is healthy, but you have to expect that two people with two different views, at some times you're going to bump heads and you're not going to have the same perspective that the other person is going to have. So,
yeah. Look.
You can't cough on camera.
Look, we need to figure this thing out.
Oh, Lord.
We're live, but look, my throat is live as well. So yeah, you're gonna have to expect to have disagreements. Disagreements are a part of life, and I say this repeatedly to people we have conversations with when we're invited places, that it's not just your relationship. You are not the only person who has disagreements in your marriage. Every single relationship, whether it be a business relationship, whether it be a mother-father relationship, whether it be a sibling relationship, whatever relationship you're in, there's always going to be a disagreement, because perspectives are as unique as the people who have them.
Right, exactly.
So, we can both have the same convictions. Shaone and I are both Christians. We grew up in a pretty much Pentecostal holiness background. We believe in the same type of doctrine, but I know that there are certain scriptures that we see differently. The principle is still the same, but we're just disagreeing on, details of what happens. It's like how something is interpreted. Absolutely.
Because, like I said, because your perspective of something, it's just like I've heard scriptures preached over and over again by different preachers, and sometimes I hear the scripture preached differently from a different preacher. It didn't really make what the other preacher preached wrong. It just was a different interpretation of the scripture.
Yeah. And sometimes it could be creative differences about how you guys want to approach finances, how you want to approach business or house management or time management.
Right.
There are...
Because I'm all for what's yours is mine and what's mine is mine.
Yeah, she's for that. But
for
my
that.
perspective is...
I'm all for that.
What I say goes. You feel me? So with mine, yours, it doesn't matter. If I say that it is or it ain't, or it is. No, but there are going to be disagreements because we all see things differently. So if I think that the best way for us to budget is to live on 30%, invest, 10%, I'm talking about giving it back to God, and then, the rest put into savings. And she's more like, no, we need to give God the 10%. We need to invest another 10% in secular, investments, IRAs or whatever. And we need to live on the 50% and the rest we put in savings. Those slight perspectives can cause problems if you don't handle them correctly, and they will be the downfall of your marriage if you don't expect those things to happen. When you can expect something to happen, you're better prepared for it to happen. So if you know that this is how you think budgeting should go, when you're planning, you should also leave room for the other person to have another perspective. Right. A lot of the problem is that we only prepare for them to see it our way. We never say, okay, what's my compromise? But every good negotiator knows that when you go into a negotiation, you have the number that you say, but the number that you can do, you keep that secret. So if I'm willing to give you $50, I'm not going to say $50 from the jump. I'm going to say 20.
Right.
And then you're going to say 70.
Right.
And then I'm going to say 30, and you're going to say 40, and then you're going to say 60, and we're going to meet at 50. So when you're negotiating, you have to understand that there is going to be conflict going in, but we need to leave room for conflict resolution. We need to leave room for compromise. We need to leave room so that our goals can be met while satisfying both of our perspectives. So that's another thing.
That's good.
What else?
And I really find that if you do not have realistic expectations, sometimes you find yourself in situations that you could have dealt with easier had you expected, realistic things to happen in your relationship. You may have been able to get through that.
Absolutely.
And I find that a lot of people end up breaking up and breaking things off because neither one of them, came into the relationship with realistic expectations. And like I said, a lot of times people make unrealistic expectations without the person even knowing that they're expected to do this magical thing.
Yeah.
And because people aren't perfect, everyone is bound to mess up. And like I said in our videos months ago, because of what I had to experience while me and Tyrus was dating, so I like to always bring this up, but people go through life situations and tragedies and things like that. And if you're with that person, you may experience some turbulence, with that person, and you have to expect life things to happen. If you're with someone and they've been, used to making $300,000 a year, they have a great job and a great business going for themselves, and something falls through and they're no longer making that, or something happens in their company and they're no longer occupying that position, you would expect that to be a change for that person. So they may go through something emotionally or whatever, just trying to pick up the pieces. And to me, I think this is a great point, because to me, it's realistic to understand that life is going to happen, whether you're dating someone or married to someone. And it may change who they are. It may change their views. It may change, how they are towards you in a period of time. And, I like to bring that up because I know that when I was going through what I was going through, Tyrus could have been like, you know what? I'm finished. This is just too much. But he understood, like, okay, one day I might have to go through this, and I'm going to need somebody there for me. And so he just stuck with me. And so...
Yeah, and I think that's actually, we can file that under expect the unexpected. You have to expect that unexpected things will happen. You have to be... There's no way to properly prepare for tragedy to happen, but when you know that tragedy is bound to happen,
right, then
you're better equipped to regroup when those things happen. Right. You know what I mean? In the Bible, Paul says to us that we will have fiery trials. There will be temptation. Even Jesus says it. Like, we're going to go through things. That's right. He said, I tell you this one thing, you're going to go through some things, but the good thing about it is that you don't have to go through it as if it's unique to you and as if there is no help for you, So some people go through life thinking that everything is going to go by the book. And the problem with thinking that everything is going to go by your plan is that when something goes off, you didn't have a plan B. You didn't have a backup plan. You're not quick enough on your feet to kind of pivot and move and roll with the punches. But when you're expecting the unexpected, then you're better equipped. There's another thing. We didn't talk about this last week, but just talking about what to expect when you get into a marriage, there is a group of people who, and specifically maybe to women, there's a group of women who believe that all men cheat. And their expectation for their significant other is that he will cheat because he's a man. And what they try to do is they try to expect it so that when it happens, they're not as broken,
right,
as if it right, under regular circumstances.
So it's in the back of their head. So it's like, okay, I already know that all men cheat. So when it happens, girl, you just got to pick up the pieces, or you just got to deal with it because you already know what men are about.
See, but I don't agree with that. I agree with the concept of expecting the unexpected, but I don't think that you should.
I know you hate that whole mindset.
Yeah, I don't like that, because you have to expect a successful relationship. You can't go into a relationship expecting it to fail. You can't go into a relationship expecting failure. You have to expect successful relationship,
because you're probably gonna fail.
You're
and I'm saying your relationship will probably fail if you go into the relationship.
If you go into it expecting failure,
that it's gonna fail, it's probably gonna fail.
Because you're going to do all the wrong things. You know what I mean? You're not going to open up to your partner because you're like, what does it matter? Because in a few years,
right? You're always gonna react in a way of failure. Like, okay, well, at one point this will be over.
You don't care. The smallest thing could tear up your relationship if you go into it, believing that it's going to fail. That 50% of marriages end in divorce, and I think it's actually a little lower. But the problem is less people are getting married.
Right.
So the divorce rate is down, but the marriage rate is down because people have lost faith in marriage, because they're thinking like, why should I get into a marriage if it's going to fail? They go into the marriage with the wrong expectation.
And like what we talked about last week, people are looking at other people's relationships. Oh, well, I'm not going to get married. Nobody, someone said to me a while ago, like, there's not even any successful marriages or relationships in my whole entire family. My parents split up. My grandparents split up. None of my aunts or uncles are married. So people in my family, we just date, for an extended amount of time. Mm-hmm. And that to me is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my life. And I'll say it on live because I told that person it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Exactly.
Because if you go around looking at other people's relationships, of course you're going to say, okay, my parents weren't successful, my grandparents weren't successful, so therefore I just don't believe in marriage.
And that was another thing we talked about last week.
That's the lazy way out.
The other thing we talked about last week was not expecting your relationship to be like somebody else's relationship. And the problem with that is you don't know why they split up. Mm-hmm. You don't know what the circumstances was in their specific relationship. You know what I mean? Right. A lot of times, and this is, I got to keep it completely honest. If I was talking to my friends, I would say we got to keep it completely funky. I got to keep it funky with y'all. That most relationships fail generationally because people emulate the relationship that they had before them. So I give it to you like this. I watched. I actually talked to this person. I talked to a person and she was saying how the women in my family, we don't take no crap from men. We independent. Can't no man do nothing for me. And I'm like, okay, and that's why none of the women in your family are married. And it's not because a good man can't handle an independent woman, but when a woman has no mind to compromise and to live a life with her husband and understand that it's give and take on both sides, it's compromise on both sides, then you're going to be single and lonely. You know what I mean? Bishop Jake says, you call it keeping it real, right. But I call it keeping it broke. I call it keeping it lonely.
Keeping it single.
I call it keeping it single. There are some things about you that you have to change. And generationally, people take on these mindsets. So, my mom was a strong woman. Your mom got a divorce. I'm a strong woman. And now you got a divorce. So you can't find nobody who want to deal with you. The same thing with guys. These women, I keep them in their place, man. They better not say nothing to me. Your dad was alone. Your dad is old and alone and ain't got nobody but you. His daughter don't have one to talk to him. And you're in a bunch of broken relationships because you don't know how to treat women because you looked at how your father treated women. So you see how if we emulate what people do, just for the sake of emulation, we're going to continue in what, super spiritual called generational curses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not anything magical. I hate when people try to over mysticize the Bible. It's very practical when you think about it. It's very scientific. It's very psychological that the behavior that we have is usually exemplified by somebody who raised us. So we're the way we are because of the people who raised us. So a lot of times we're going to make their mistakes because they made those mistakes in front of us,
right,
and never challenged us to do better. Mm-hmm. If I was honest with my children about my marriage, I'll say, your mom and I look like we had a great marriage, but some of the things that I did wrong was X, Y, and Z. Hopefully, when you get into a marriage, you'll be more sensitive, right, about X, Y, and Z. We don't have those conversations. We don't have those talks. We just allow things to go on the way that they go.
That goes back to what you were saying before in previous videos about how we don't... I lost my train of thought. I was holding on to it for so long. What did you just say?
About what?
Oh, Lord.
I said a lot.
Never mind.
But, no, there was
no. I remember it.
Go ahead.
When you were talking about how we're not taught how to have relationships.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's the problem. In our families and our personal relationships, we don't know how to be brother and sister. We don't know how to be mother and son. And we don't know how to, and then we're not taught how we should, date or how we should love. And so therefore we get into all these relationships and families are dysfunctional.
They're dysfunctional.
Because nobody in the family taught anyone how a family is supposed to function.
Absolutely. The mothers don't necessarily teach the daughters how to be mothers. We have great examples of mothers, and I look at it like this. Jamal Bryant preached a sermon one time about how Enoch in the Bible was caught up and he never saw death. The testimony of Enoch is that he pleased the Lord. And he pleased the Lord to such a degree that he was caught up and he never had to see death. The Lord translated him from humanity to divinity, right? But then he had a son named Methuselah, and Methuselah lived to be the oldest man in the world. And, Jamal Bryant raised the question, why didn't Enoch teach Methuselah the secret to pleasing God the way that he did? Why didn't he share with him, but the problem is we're so busy caught up in our lives that we never take time to really teach our children how to be in relationships, right, how to be a father. It's like, the single moms raise their sons and they do a great job, but a man needs to teach a boy to become a man. And, in a lot of instances, we don't do as well as we could do because we miss a lot. We talk more about what a man is supposed to look like. We focus more on the outward appearance. We focus on, men don't do this, and men don't, a man gotta, this, that, and the third. But we need to talk about the psychology of a man. We need to talk about how a man thinks and how a man processes. And my sisters think it's funny. In fact, my sister Aisha put up a post today about how funny we are about, the stories that we have about the kids. But I always use the situations that they find themselves in as an opportunity to change their way of thinking about life.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if they, don't clean up their toys, they're not in trouble because they didn't clean up their toys. They're in trouble because they need to start thinking like somebody who has responsibilities.
Right.
So we focus too much on the effect and the outward appearance, and like even in marriages, we work on when we go out, we gotta look, we gotta hug each other and we gotta so cute and da-da-da. And then when you go home, you sleeping in different beds. No. This doesn't mean anything. The show doesn't mean anything if the psychology isn't right.
Exactly.
If the spirit isn't right. So
that's why I say moms are supposed to teach their daughters how to be mothers and wives, and fathers are supposed to teach their sons how to be husbands and role models and fathers. But I like to, when I talk about my grandfather, Pop Johnson, I like to talk about him because he took time to show me as a young girl up until I was an adult how I should be treated as a woman. And he never put down any past relationships that I had, but he would always remind me of my value, or, you know, what I had to bring to the table, or he would say, you know, don't mess around with these knuckleheads. But, you know, he would do things like take me out and do things and say, listen, you know, I'm not saying basically that a man has to wine and dine you, but make sure that, you know, you're being treated the way you're supposed to be treated. Make sure you're being treated with respect. My grandfather never raised his voice at me. He never hit me. He never, and it wasn't because I was never bad. I really was never bad with my grandpa, but it was because he was trying to show me what a man is supposed to be to his daughter. And obviously, you know, when you're 3 to 5, 6, 7 years old, you're going to get popped. But I'm talking about as I grew to be a young lady, he wanted to show me the example. He wanted to be the example. And sometimes, you know, mothers can teach us how to be mothers and wives, but that I also think that the father figures need to step up and show their daughters kind of what they should see. That's why I think that the best thing for children is clearly to have the mother and father at home. I mean, it's not, obviously everybody doesn't have it, and I do think it is an advantage. But when you do have parents that are married and you get to see that example, I think that kind of sets it. But I mean, you know, they still don't tell you how to do it word for word, but at least if you have an example.
Yeah, and they can't though, because, you know,
I mean, they're still learning.
Yeah, exactly, because we're still learning, we're still growing, we're still trying to figure this thing out. But it should never deter you from teaching them the lessons that you learned, you know, and you got to be that example. You know, women, even if you have a son, you have to show him the type of woman that he needs in his life. He needs to be able to recognize a woman when he sees one. Yes, and if you're not being an example of that woman, he's going to get somebody, you know, who's... Yeah. And that's the problem. Because women, a lot of times, women never make a distinction between their role as a child's mother and their husband's wife. To the child, they're always mom. And they never have to deal with mom as dad's wife. I
mean, my boys do.
Well, yeah, because I identify the relationship, and I do this on purpose. You know, so young boys see the mother for their whole life. Right. So when they get into a relationship, they're looking for a mother, and the problem is they need a wife. But their relationship is not going to work because he's looking for a mother and she's looking for a husband, not a child.
Right.
You know, and the flip side goes on the other way. You know, these men spoil their little girls and they do all... So, or they don't show their girls enough attention. So these girls are looking for a dad.
Exactly.
And he's looking for a wife.
Exactly.
So she wants somebody to take care of him. You know, he needs to pay my bills and da-da-da-da-da. No.
I'm glad you brought that up because women especially, oh Jesus, need so much attention. And, you know, me personally, I need my space. So you know, everyone who knows me and my husband, we are road dogs for a reason. Like, we go everywhere together. We try to experience as much as we can together because we actually like each other. We enjoy spending time. If I'm out somewhere without him, I'm like, dang, Ty had to be here for this.
I got to call him. I'm like, yo.
Because we could just look at each other and be like, you know, and we know exactly what's going on in our brains.
Look at you. You just communicate with a look.
So, that's the kind of relationship we have. But there are times where, you know, he's upstairs in his office and for hours. And sometimes I just let them know your dinner's in the microwave, and I go on to bed, you know, because I'm tired, you know. And I when we first started dating, of course, I needed way more attention because I was a young-minded girl. I thought that that's what men were supposed to do. They were supposed to, like, their every waking moment was to, you know, talk about how beautiful you are and everything like that. But I'm like, now that I'm 31 years old, like, I'm moving and shaking. I got things I got to do. He got things he got to do. And we balance being parents and being lovers. We balance that. But I'm just saying, I think that especially when you're in the dating stage, that courting stage, about to get married, you do want to watch, you know, that how much attention you're seeking from the other person, because a lot of times when you're an attention seeker, you don't give that out. You don't give that attention out. You just are looking for somebody to cater to you, and women are famous for that.
But it goes back to, for every action there's a reaction. So if you're seeking attention, you also have to give attention.
And usually when you're like over the top with attention, you are probably a nagger. You're probably the stereotype for wives.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely hate.
And it's primarily because sometimes women are looking for a father and men are looking for a mother, and that's why the relationship can't go, because their relationship is not properly defined. So if it's like this, if Shay is talking to the boys, disciplining them, and they do something disrespectful, my response to them is not listen to your mother because she deserves your respect. My response to them is, first of all, you're going to respect her because she's my wife. That's what I say to them. This is my wife, and she deserves respect. You respect me, you're going to respect her too. You know? Secondly, you need to respect her because she's your mother. Because I have a dual role in the household. And if I don't show them that I operate in two different capacities, I have more than a dual role in the household. I'm so many things. But I have more than a dual role in the household.
What else do you do?
I'm minister. I'm a prayer warrior, and I'm so much. I got so many titles. But but I have so many roles in the house that they have to respect me, and to a certain extent, as a preacher, as a man of God, they have to see me operate in that capacity as well. Because there are sometimes they're going to come to me as dad, and then there's sometimes that they're going to come to me as, the priest, and then sometimes they're going to have to come to me as mom's husband, because they need to get some information to mom, and they need to do it in the right way. So we have to make sure that we express to our kids how to operate in more than one capacity, and show them that she's not just mom. And if you want to find a good woman, don't look for mom, look for the person mom was when she was dad's wife. If you want to find a good husband, don't look at dad, look how dad treated mom as his wife. And don't base your foundation on that, but that should give you a good launching point to kind of move forward in it. So, one of the other expectations that we should have, actually, I'll try to save that one for last. All right. You got to understand that in your relationship, you have to, I'll save that one too.
We should probably work on the last point, and then we'll save it for next week.
We'll save it for next week. All right.
Next week.
Let me use this one to end on. All right. So, one of the things that you have to, where do I want to end?
Hi, Sierra. How are you? I didn't get a chance to shout you out yet.
Where do I want to end? Well, we talked about being successful, right? Well, okay, all in all, you have to understand and expect your relationship to change. All right? I think to end there for this week is a good, kind of way to wrap it up. you have to expect your relationship to change. Anything that is not changing, anything that is not growing is dead. Anything that is not growing, anything that is not changing, it is dead. And if you don't change, you will die. You know, I like Pastor Sori's at the church when he talks about church growth and how to keep church alive. He always likens it to, you know, companies like Blockbuster. Now, Blockbuster, you know, was comfortable being the premier movie rental chain. It was a franchise built on giving people movies when they come out. It comes out on DVD. We go to Blockbuster. But Blockbuster refused to change. Blockbuster refused to see how it can improve on the model that it already had. Yep. And Netflix, well, first Redbox came
creeping in. But Redbox did the same thing Blockbuster did.
Yeah, because
they got comfortable in where they were. And while they were comfortable, geniuses was over here working on Netflix. And Netflix is done took over everything.
Netflix is the next $300 billion company. Hands down. It's, you know, you got Facebook, you got Google, you got Amazon. Netflix is about to be up there. Because Netflix saw beyond what was going on. They said, okay, we'll rent you videos, we'll rent you the DVDs, we'll rent you X, Y, and Z, but we'll mail them to you. And then whenever you're finished with them, you can mail it back, and we'll send you, but we'll get a subscription.
Right.
So however many videos you use throughout the month, you're going to pay $11 regardless.
Regardless.
And we're going to just keep, you know, charging you. Then they said, you know what? This thing right here and the computer, we can start streaming movies from there.
Yep.
And when they started doing that, Blockbuster died.
Yep.
Now there's still a few Redbox.
But they didn't stop. They didn't stop at the DVD and the streaming. After that became popular, they went on to having, you know, coming up with TV shows and original programming. And now they're coming up with, they're taking huge celebrities and getting them to sign on for specials, and they're just taking it to the next level. And that to me is genius, because you already know that while you're sleeping, somebody else is coming up with an idea. And absolutely. Netflix does not sleep. They keep going.
And the same thing with Amazon. You know, Amazon, they're creating technology for you to be able to walk into the grocery store with your phone, grab what you want, and walk out. Not having to wait in line, not having to pay the cashier, not having to try to go through not having enough money and try to go through the self-checkout so you can get some free items. You know, I know y'all doing that. But,
please don't do that. Please don't
you know,
do that.
You don't have to worry about that, because Amazon is creating supermarkets where you can walk in, take what you need, and walk on out. And not have to wait, because people are thinking about what's next. And even in your relationship, you have to think about where you guys are going. And it's hard to do. It's hard to look at your relationship and properly assess it and say, where are we going next? But you always need to have a next in your mind. You have to expect to change. Like we said, you know, we got married when we were fairly young. I was 21, she was 20. And over the years, we've built together. Mm-hmm. We've built together. I had independent goals. She had independent goals. But we also made goals together. You know, and we built on that, and we've changed, and our life experiences and our ups and our downs have changed our perception of the world. Hasn't changed our faith in God, it's only made it stronger. Right. But it's changed our perception on the world. Now, we're not the same people that we used to be.
That's right.
So if she had to marry or be married to 2006 Tyrus in 2016,
doozy.
It might not work properly. We might not be compatible. You know, and if I had to be married to 2006 Shay in 2016, no go. You know what I mean? You got to understand that because you're changing, because you're a person that goes through evolution, and they're a person that goes through evolution, then the relationship is going to constantly be changed. You know, I use the example all the time. You know, my mother when I was young, you would say, "Oh man, Mom, I love Fruity Pebbles," you know, and she would buy every Fruity Pebble
Right.
in the northeastern corridor until you got sick of Fruity Pebbles and you didn't like them no more.
Like, listen,
yeah,
please don't buy.
And
no
then I'm like, "Oh, Mom, I don't want no Fruity Pebbles." She's like, "I thought you liked them." Well, my taste changed. You know, now I grew. Now I really like Raisin Bran. You know what I mean? Like your taste mature. I was telling Shay today, I was never a person who enjoyed sweets. I never was. I'm more of a savory eater. I like potato chips. I like savory foods. But you know, since I turned 30, and you know, she's an incredible baker, I love sweets now. Like I gotta have, like, she made this thing of brownies. It's sitting right here. And I might eat all of the brownies myself. It's just because I'm changing and we're changing. So you always have to have the expectation that your life is going to change and that there is always room for improvement. There's always room to grow. Absolutely, Treese. We know that Raisin Bran is popping. There's always room to grow. And bless you. See, you doing worse than I am.
Yeah, but I said I was sick when we first started the show.
I've been sick all week. They know I've been sick all week.
I told y'all I'm not
Everybody
doing that.
know I've been sick all week. Everybody been calling me, asking me how I'm doing. Anyway, you need a tissue? Don't make me re-sick. Or did we freeze? Anyway, you know, we just have to continue to be on our toes. Yeah, you know what, Treese? Yeah, she should have made me my own pan. I was trying to be nice to y'all and let y'all get a couple, but...
Well, first of all, I made them for Treese on Thanksgiving because she doesn't eat banana pudding or peach cobbler.
But she better learn.
So,
She better learn how to eat banana pudding. That peach cobbler was banging too. I could have ate all of that. But anyway, you just gotta learn how to grow. You gotta learn how to set goals for your relationships. You know, it is not... We take our relationships so lightly. You know, when we make a business plan and you want to get a loan from the bank, you got to bring them how you're going to make money in the first year, what you're investing in, what you're spending the money on. You got a business plan because you want to be successful. But the same thing is true in relationships. You got to set goals for the relationships. Now, you know, for us, because we work so closely together, this is one of our goals for our relationship, is to use the knowledge and understanding that we gain from our relationship and share it with other people, as well as create a platform for others to share. This is something that we have in our relationship. Because we do this, it makes us talk about our relationship. It makes us assess our relationship. You know, we sit down and we talk about, you know, relationship theory and how well we adhere to it, you know? So this was a goal that we had in our relationship to better, you know, the quality of our relationship. So do that. Expect change. Expect to grow. Expect success. Expect God to, not even expect God, allow God to move in your relationship, you know? Always seek answers in the Word as it pertains to how we're supposed to treat each other and things like that. And I'm trying to think of a way to wrap this up, but I don't know. My brain is done.
Just wrap it up.
Because after this is going to be bedtime. So if there are no questions, or comments,
we thank everybody who joined us tonight.
I know. Where y'all at today? Y'all having parties, Christmas parties, and y'all ain't inviting me?
I don't know where everyone is tonight.
We would have been live from y'all party, wherever y'all at today.
Though we weren't. We did way too much this weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm tired, as they used to say.
Tired.
I'm tired. So again, thanks to everyone who joined us this week. Next week we'll be on, but Christmas Day, you may see us on Facebook, but you won't see us with Sundays with the Bushes session. But you may see us on Facebook.
We'll be
also on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. we'll be maybe somewhere on Facebook, but we won't be doing the sit down conversation.
We might go live from the church.
You'll see.
You know, just to celebrate the new year.
Yeah, right. I'm excited. I'm geeked because everything that's going on now is just a preparation for next year. So I'm excited because
next year is gonna be dope.
God is doing a lot of things in our life.
First of all, this year was dope.
This year was dope.
Who said 2016 was... Some bad things happened in 2016.
But you have to understand, when we were having bad years, some of these people were having good years.
Oh, yeah, seasons.
So everyone has different seasons. And for us, this is a season for us. And God said that. And he's been true to his word ever since. He's so faithful. So we're excited. And also, Sierra... You need to contact me so I can get you and your husband over for dinner, okay?
Absolutely.
So, with that being said, thanks to everyone who joined us. We love you. Thanks, Trees, for always supporting. All right. Good night. Bye.
Peace. Yeah.